What's up? Yosef Shepherd here. Reading a book called Leadership in the New Science by Margaret J. Wheatley. I'm on chapter 8, The Change in the Capacity of Life, page 147. In humans, self-reference becomes more complex because of capacities that differentiate us from most other species. We possess consciousness and are capable of reflection. We are able to think about a past and a future. No longer anchored to just the present moment, we can dream about what we want and imbue events with meaning. We still see the world through a self, but to this self has been added the dimensions of time and meaning. It's hard to look at modern life and see our capacities for reflection or meaning making. We don't use our gifts to be more aware or thoughtful. We're driven in the opposite direction. Things move too fast for us to reflect. Demanding tasks give us no time to think, and we barely notice the lack of meaning until forced to stand still by illness, tragedy, and job loss. But in spite of our hurry, we cannot stop life's dynamic of self-reference or the human need for meaning. If we want to influence any change anywhere, we need to work with this powerful process rather than deny its existence. And we need to understand that all change results from a changing meaning. Meaning is created by the process of self-reference. We change only if we decide that the change is meaningful to who we are. Will it help us become who we want to be, or gain us more of what we think we need to preserve ourselves? From becoming attuned to this dynamic, I've come to believe that both individual and organizational change start from the same place. People need to explore an issue sufficiently to decide whether new meaning is available and desirable. They'll change only if they believe that a new insight, a new idea, or a new form helps them become more of who they are. If the work of change is at the level of an entire organization or community, then the search for new meaning must be done as a collective inquiry. To put this realization into practice has required significant changes on my part. Now my first desire with a group is to learn who they are, what self they are referencing. I could never learn this by listening to some self-reports or taking the word of a few people. I discover who they are by noticing what's meaningful to them as they are engaged in their work. What issues and behaviors get their attention? What topics generate the most energy, positive and negative? I have to be curious to discover these answers, and I have to be working with them, not sitting on the side observing behavior or interviewing individuals. In the process of doing actual work, the real identity of the group, and not some fantasy image, always becomes visible. There's another aspect to this work that is important to me. I assume that even in the presence of a group or collective identity, there are as many different interpretations as there are people in the group. I assume I will discover multiple and divergent interpretations for everything that occurs. So I try to put ideas and issues on the table as experiments to discover these different meanings, not as my recommendations for what should be meaningful. I try to stay open to the different reactions I get, rather than instantly categorizing people as resistors or allies, although this is not always easy. I expect diverse responses. Gradually, I'm even learning to welcome them. It has been fascinating to notice how many interpretations the different members of a group can give to the same event. I am both astonished and confident that, as quantum theory and biology teach, no two people see the world exactly the same. However you do it, discovering what is meaningful to a person, group, or organization is the first essential task. We discover this by looking into our actual day-to-day work. It doesn't help to go off and talk about meaning or behaviors in the abstract. We need to be able to see what we are doing as we are doing it. This is where the true learning is. To develop this observer self requires practice, curiosity, and patience. But as we engage in this process of exploring diverse interpretations and learning to observe our patterns, oftentimes we discover a unifying energy that makes the work of change possible. If we discover an issue whose significance we share with others, those others are transformed into colleagues. And if we recognize a shared sense of injustice or a common dream, magical things happen to people. Past hurts and negative histories get left behind. People step forward to work together. We don't hang back, we don't withdraw, and we don't wait to be enticed. We seek each other out, eager to discover who else might help. The call of the problem sounds louder than the past grievances of our fears of failure. We have found something important to work on, and because we want to make a difference, we figure out how to work together. I've come to appreciate that real change happens in personal behaviors, or at larger scale in entire organizations. Only when we take time to discover the sense of what's worthy of our shared attention. We don't accept an organizational redesign because a leader tells us it's necessary. We choose to accept it if, and only if, we see how this new design enables us to contribute more to what we've defined as meaningful. And we don't accept diversity because we've been told it's the right thing to do. Only as we're engaged together in work that is meaningful do we learn to work through the differences and value them. Change becomes more easier when we focused first on creating a meaning for the work that can embrace us all, and then held by this rich center of meaning, we let go of other grievances and work around traditional hindrances. Really love this book. I've been reading it with Zamana. I want to leave it there for the recording and let it lead to good discussions and thoughts. Blessings, everyone.